we're going to do a basic wire wrapped pendant using this piece of glass. They're just real simple. And this is 22 gauge silver over copper wire. It's commonly referred to as German style silver plate wire. I don't measure exactly how much. I just kind of eyeball it, and I'm going to do what I refer to as a double loop on this. And I'll explain that more in more detail in a second. So I'm going to need twice as much wire as I would do if I were doing just a single run. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. Okay. And now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, have it, cut it approximately my center, and I'm going to find the center of this, which is about there. And this is why I call it a double loop, is because I'm using two pieces of wire. I'm going to twist to make my bail, and the bail is what you use to hang your pieces of jewelry off of for your pendants. That's what you put your cord through. So you want this to be fairly strong because you don't want it to misshape or reshape too much. So just simply twisting, probably about ½ an inch, give or take. All of my measurements are approximate. Don't sue me. All right, so now I take my round nose pliers and I bring it and shape it around my pliers. And then I take the two ends, bring them up, and I do another twist. And keeping in mind that this is the bail, this is where it's going to hang. So we want to pay attention to how it's going to hang. So automatically it's going to hang from here. So where is the wire going to sit and how is it going to wrap on the pieces? So that's one of the things you want to pay attention to when you're doing your bail. So now I'm going to bring my piece in, and I typically do one side all the way around and then the other side all the way around. And this is a real simple process, and that would just come down about 1/3. So we're going to do one side at a time. Try to keep some in front and some in back. Do a twist, keeping in mind where the bail is going to be. And this is where a lot of the practice comes in. The more you do this, the easier it is to hold all of the bits and pieces together at once. And then we come over here, getting the other pieces out of the way, and do another, basically a half twist. So you're going to bring it back to about where it was. Pay attention to how the shape of the twist is. You'll see that it's about a half. It's not all the way around. Bring those underneath. And then we come up. And we wrap, keeping this tight to the piece. We wrap this around the top. Now, as a double loop, we're going to do that a second time going back around. If I had just in a single, I'd be done. As I said, this is a real straightforward, real simple. Now I'm going to leave these here. You can cut these off now, or I tend to wait until the very end after I get everything else wrapped to cut my pieces off, because sometimes I decide I want to get creative and do some additional embellishment. But that's our next starting point. So we're going to do this again. Come down here. We're going to come on this side. We're going to come below the first and do our half twist. Whereas on this side, we're going to come above it. And do the same thing and just do a half twist. So something that sometimes that is fun to do and can add a lot of color to it is if you do two different colors of wire, say copper and silver of the same size, so that each piece is different. And that's a fun way to decorate these. And we just come up here and we wrap around. Let's come in above that rather than below. And this is where it can get a little bit messy to wait, but to each their own. I'm gonna bring it up. I always end, whenever possible, I always want my wire to point forward when I end it, so that when I cut it, it's not going to scratch who's ever wearing it. Just one of those little things that you don't always think about until you're in the midst of something and realize, why is that not working right? I just always want them pointing forward whenever possible. And sometimes it's not an option. So with this, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 3 of the 4, and I'm going to take this 4th one and I'm going to make a little decoration in front. And you want to cut these in as close to where they're going to lay as you can. Then I'm going to come back through with my flat nose. And I'm going to flatten them in a little bit so that they're not as pokey. When you run your hand over the top of this, when you run your fingers over the top of this, you shouldn't catch them. You should be able to run over them without actually feeling them. So this one, and this happens a lot, that's up here in the loop, we're going to take that and we're going to twist it around. If my fingers will cooperate. So we're going to come back in, because I don't want this to loop around to scratch, and cut it right there. Okay. So before I do the embellishment, I have one more step I'm going to do, which is I'm going to go through and I'm going to tighten the individual wires. This is something that I like to do. I feel that it adds character to the pieces. It also makes sure that everything is stable and nothing's going to move. But again, it's a personal embellishment. So one of the things that my pieces tend to hold. Everybody's style is different. Back onto that. There we go. And I also tighten the back just to make sure that we're even. We don't want to have one piece that's got more tension on it than others, because that's likely to be the piece that would break if something were to happen. Nice thing about wire, though, is that this stuff typically doesn't. It's not that brittle. All right, so down to the last step, now that we've done that. So we're going to take our round nose pliers again, and we're going to make a half loop the very end of that piece of wire that was left. It's about 3/4. And we're going to take our flat nose. We're going to smoosh it in a little bit so that it's still got the roundish shape, but it's a little bit more teardrop-ish and flat. That's the big thing here, is flat. So that's what that should look like. Am I about right? And then we go and we start essentially scrolling it up. We're going to turn it and have a flat medallion style rounded scroll. And we'll just sit right there in the center. And that's it. We're all done.
So how much would you sell a piece like that for?
So since I've got the double wire on there and the extra embellishment, this would be a $20 piece.
Nice. And do you think it's fair for people that are watching this video to also be able to sell their piece for $20?
Yeah, practice.
Right.
If they feel that they have done a good quality job and they feel that that's reasonable. Keeping in mind, one of the things about pricing is the more experience you have, the more your price should come up because you've got that many hours into your practice. For somebody who this is the second or third piece that they've made, maybe $10. Just because what you're looking for is you're looking to get your time and your energy and your materials out of it. This whole container typically costs like $7-8 at Michael's. So that's maybe 10 cents a piece for the material, and then probably about 30-40 cents for the wire that I've got.
Can you talk about the pliers you were using?
Mm-hmm. So I've gotten my tools from a variety of places. And I can't tell you exactly where I got each of these from. But sometimes it's from Michael's, sometimes it's from different vendors out of different craft shows or even the state fair that I go to. And your pliers are going to define the quality and cleanness of your pieces and whether or not you're going to have clean edges or if you're going to mark or mar your pieces. A lot of it depends also on, again, practice and muscle memory and how hard you're gripping pieces. You notice it, if you were paying attention, you'll notice that when I first came in here and started doing the kinking step, I slipped. And that was because I didn't have a good grip on my pliers the way I should have. And that's a practice thing. It does not happen anywhere near as often as it used to. There have been times when it has happened and completely ruined a piece because it dinged the wire sufficiently that I wasn't willing to sell it. The pliers can range in price from $15 to I've paid as much as $100 for a single pair of pliers. Just depends on the style and also where they're from. These are for the most part stainless steel, and they're good pliers and they do what I need them to do. But again, it's practice, and you can spend money on them or you can buy cheap ones. I have both currently. These are the ones that I use most often, and these are probably my more expensive pair.